So I was born with my eye condition. My eye condition is retinopathy of prematurity. I was born 3 months early. I was in the hospital for at least 3 months until they were able to take me home. They had no idea that I had a vision problem. My mom took me for a checkup, and for some reason the doctor could see that I wasn't tracking. They sent me to an eye doctor and ended up having emergency surgery. At that time, my understanding, I was totally blind. I started coming to the Lighthouse around 3 or 4 years of age. I came here for Saturday programs, all the different types of parties that they had. So the Lighthouse has been a part of my life since at an early age. My first job was through the Lighthouse. I was a summer camp counselor here back in the 80s. I worked at contract jobs at the Lighthouse at the IRS building. I've met a lot of great people that are in my life today that if it wasn't for the Lighthouse, I wouldn't have met some of these people.
A green tinted screen and braille lettering pops up that turns into the white Lighthouse of Houston logo. The Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential cover art pops up on screen. There's a flash, then clips of Jennifer's eye, her walking down the hall, and reading braille appear. A montage of clips from episodes of the podcast begins with Jennifer talking to our guests and smiling. It zooms in on the Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential cover art.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential. I am your hostie with the mostie, Jennifer Parrish, and today we have an awesome episode for you guys. Our guest is Lee Rodriguez, or as he's known in the beat baseball community, Lee Rod. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. And so we'll be learning about his journey with vision loss and what he's had to overcome and some of his achievements and how the Lighthouse of Houston has, helped him out and, along the way. So before we get started, we're going to describe our set to our visually impaired viewers. We're sitting in blue chairs with wooden tables next to us. We have a white brick background with blue lights and a neon lighthouse sign. All right, so let's get going here. So Lee, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you
Thank you
doing?
for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Okay, so Lee, before we get started today with our topics, we just kind of want you to tell us a little bit about your journey with vision loss and, how it all kind of began for you.
Okay. So I was born with my eye condition. My eye condition is retinopathy of prematurity. I was born 3 months early, so at 6 months. And I was a 1 pound baby. There's also a funny story to that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But anyway, so I was in the hospital for at least 3 months until they were able to take me home. And at that time, my parents, they had no idea that I had a vision problem. So I don't know, I was around 9 months of age, and my mom took me for a checkup. And so they were checking my eyes, and for some reason the doctor, he could see that I wasn't tracking. And so at that time they called my dad back because he just dropped us off. They called my dad back and they sent me to an eye doctor and ended up having emergency surgery. And so what had happened is I was, at that time, my understanding, I was totally blind.
Wow.
And so through that surgery, they were able to restore vision in my right eye. And so I'm total in my left. And from that point on, my vision has been stable. So the doctor who did that surgery for me was a rock star.
Yeah.
Because I just had my eyes checked, and it's in a stable condition. So
Right.
I'm doing really well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, because we have blindness is such a spectrum, and you and I both have, we're born with our eye conditions, and there's so many people that have just lost it along the way. So that's, I feel like, we're kind of fortunate, if that's even a thing to say, sort of among the ranks of the visually impaired community, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your first interactions at the Lighthouse, because you were hanging out with us when you were young, right?
Oh yeah, I was
super
real young.
Yeah.
So my parents, they just did what they were told. Fortunately, they got. I don't know if it was through the school district or from the doctor. I have no idea. I don't know how it started, but I started coming to the Lighthouse around 3 or 4 years of age, and through various programs. And so I came when I was a kid. I came here for Saturday programs and all the different types of parties that they had. Yeah. So the Lighthouse has been a part of my life since an early age. And then would you like me to talk about all the other programs that I?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a teenager, I started going through the transition program, and that was an after-school program here at the Lighthouse. And so what really sticks with me about everything that I've been through is the Lighthouse has helped me with, just give me access to events, activities. It taught me new skills, but it, it's also impacted me when it comes to friendships and relationships. And so, I still have friends from 12 years of age.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
When we would come here for the transition program, starting around, it was probably around the age of 14, it was like 2 days a week. And, we would just hang out at the Lighthouse. We would either do homework or go do activities, go swimming, go out in the community, go do things. And it was cool because, we were all bussed in here. And so we were able to develop friendships and relationships and things like that.
That's
and,
awesome. So you guys, they bust you from your high school to
Yeah.
I did not know that. I was not aware of that. That's awesome.
This is way back in the 80s. Though.
Yeah.
So it was really awesome. And so I still either know a lot of those people or am good friends with a couple.
Yeah.
At least one for sure. So it's just throughout that time. And then, I've always going to the Lighthouse summer camp. And I started doing that when I was a kid. I remember, again, back then it was different. 11 years, one of my favorite stories is I was 11 years old and they would pick us up every day. So it was like a daycare, but the Lighthouse picked us up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they would take us home. And so one of my favorite memories from that is I was 11 years old and our driver, she loved violent films. Yes. So
that's so random.
Yes, it is random.
It.
It is random. So the thing is that she loved violent films. And so every day, every morning, she'd play their tape. And
Yes.
so she'd play that tape.
We're not old.
And man, it just stuck with me. So the whole van, none of us knew about violent films. But by the end of that
Till
summer,
then.
we were singing the whole tape all the way through.
Oh my God.
And it was just such a fun time.
Yeah.
So
it's like carefree and sense of community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like to have that experience, because I know like myself, when you're a young kid and trying to go through like public school and, not all the sighted folks get it, right?
Right.
So to kind of have that community and, have friends with the same sort of infirmity that you do.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is, you can kind of relax and that's off the table for a while. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what were some of your kind of personal goals and aspirations when you were young and doing all that stuff?
Life has a lot of many twists and turns,
does.
So I just knew that, depending on how far down we want to go this road, but the thing is that I knew I always wanted to go to college.
Yep.
And I wanted to, that has its own story, but I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get a good job. I wanted to be independent.
Sure.
I wanted to be able to have a family one day.
Mm-hmm.
But, even then it was unsure of, bringing a child into this world.
Yeah.
And then, when you meet someone and, you have shared goals and you have shared, just wants.
Yep.
And ultimately,
Life goals.
it ended up having one child.
Yep.
And so, but just so many things. Just wanted to be as independent and be as successful as possible.
Yeah, whatever that looked like, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the scope when I was young.
Yeah. And you and I were kind of talking off camera before we started about, just kind of, people sort of think that we're, our lives are so calculated, and that we have to just like, oh God, what's the next move? What are we going to do now? Well, oh my gosh. And that's not necessarily true for everybody.
Right.
Just like your quote was trial by fire. And I like that because that's accurate. So let's talk about some specific kind of, and I know this is a broad topic, but just kind of whatever you feel like stands out for you is specific obstacles faced during education and employment. So if you can kind of think of some of those.
Okay. Well, when it comes to education, sometimes it just comes down to believing in yourself or having someone believing in you.
Yes.
And so, vision services, I had all kinds of special education services growing up in school, but looking back, I understand that their intention was, it was supposed to be good. They were trying to allow me to learn and grow and be the best that I can be. But sometimes in delivery or execution, it didn't happen that way. And, that opens you up to other things, from other peers or students or just circumstances. And sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad. Yeah. But ultimately, it's challenges that you may face sometimes, and it's overcoming them. Yeah. And I guess going back to what I was saying about having someone believing in you, when I was in middle school, I was struggling a little bit, and so whenever I was having trouble in math, and then I got a little behind in English, and ultimately in my 8th grade year they put me in remedial classes. So regarding our team, it takes a village, and we have a lot of great support and volunteers on our team. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Me myself, I'm a volunteer, but I'm also a player still. So we rely heavily on the people that get us to where we need to be and to allow us to be as successful as we can be on our team. So when I say family, I truly mean that we are a family. Yeah. We couldn't do it without each other, and we support each other. We pick each other up. So that's yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sense of community that the team is.
It really is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just you just keep going, right? You just
keep on pushing.
You just keep pushing, and so I graduate middle school, and then I get to high school. And so what happened there is they immediately put me in remedial math, which was pre-algebra at the time. Mm-hmm. And all my other classes were regular. So after the first 6 weeks, my English teacher, her name was Miss Rodriguez, and so she pulls me aside. She says, "Hey, I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay." And she says, "Look, I see, you're doing really well here. I want you to go to my honors class."
Nice.
And I said, "No, I can't do that." Mm-hmm. And she said, "Well, tell me why." I said, "Look, I struggled when I was in middle school." I said, "It was hard for me to get the A that I got in this semester, this 6 weeks, but I pushed through."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Look, I want you in my honors class. I want you to try." I said, "Okay." I said, "But I know it's going to be harder. I just don't know if I can do it." And she's like, "Look, just give it a shot.
Yeah.
If it works, great. If it doesn't, you just come right back to this class. You at least tried."
Exactly.
And I said, "Okay, let's do it." So I did it, and that changed my whole course of high school.
The entire trajectory. Huh?
Exactly, because if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would have graduated where I graduated and achieved what I did in high school.
Exactly.
Because, she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time.
Yeah, because you're a smart dude. I mean, you're a smart dude. So,
Thank you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and you, then you went to Southwest Texas, right?
I did.
Now currently Texas State, but back
Texas
in the
State,
day.
yeah. Go Bobcats.
The good old days of Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then and then after Southwest Texas, where'd you end up? Where did you end up working?
So my first job out of college was working as a teacher's assistant or a paraprofessional at an elementary school. Mm-hmm. And so I was specifically hired to work with one child in a adaptive behavior classroom.
Oh, wow.
So, and he was 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So first day on the job, the teacher and I met prior to the start of school year, and we developed a plan to work with the kids, and she and I were on the same page, which was amazing because I have my minors in psychology, so It allowed me to utilize some of those techniques that I had learned in school. So, but I never forget the first day of school. I got kicked in the private area.
That's real life.
I got spit in the face. I got punched in the face. I got cussed out.
Holy moly.
And this was by a 5-year-old.
Wow.
So
that'll bring you down a few notches, huh?
Well, they told me it was coming.
Yeah.
I expected it, but I didn't,
I mean, nothing
until
can
you see
prepare
it.
you for that,
Right.
though, until you're in it. So,
But within about 2 months on that job, it was a night and day difference. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the school year, that child went from being out of his general education classroom pretty much all day to by the end of the school year, he was in there 4 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is such an improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Dang, that's all thanks to you.
Well, I mean, it's to him too, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's having a strong support system and somebody to be there for you and to believe in him. Like I just guided him.
Yeah.
And he did the work.
That's awesome.
It took work on his part too, but he did it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I mean, and too, though, it takes the right personality and the right person to guide, an individual like that. So kudos.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very cool. So now, fast forward to now, you're working for the state of Texas.
Yes. I work for their Health and Human. I work for the Health and Human Services Commission and the Blind Children's Program.
Very nice. Yeah. So Lee's got quite the career going.
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a long journey to get here.
Yes, but you're doing fantastic.
Thank you.
So yeah. So now let's talk about some fun stuff.
Okay.
Let's talk about beatball.
All right. What do you want to know?
So Mr. Rodriguez here, or Coach, should I say?
Yes, Coach. Yeah.
So Coach Rodriguez, or Lee Rod, as we all like to call him, Lee is currently the coach of the Bayou City Heat, which is the one of the Houston teams for the National Beat Baseball Association. So let's just talk, because a lot of viewers might know, but some people may not. Let's talk about what beat baseball is and kind of describe it in detail.
Okay. Beat baseball is adaptive baseball for people who are blind or visually impaired. And so on the field, it's a team of 6. And so in baseball, there's 9 fielders. In beat ball, there's 6. And as far as defenders, they're all blindfolded on the field. And so whenever the ball itself is about the size of a grapefruit, and it's a 1-pound ball, and it's got a pin in it. When you pull that pin, the ball beeps. And so the way the ball is put in play is that the pitcher, the batter, and the catcher are all on the same team. And that ball has to travel at least 40 feet to go into the field to play. And the defenders have to use their hearing to track the ball, as well as getting some assistance from 2-sided volunteers on the field. They're called spotters. And so as the ball is in play, the fielders, based off of the grid system on the field, will travel or move towards the ball. And then the batter is running down the baseline, but the batter doesn't know which base is on. It's either first or third base. There's no second base in beat baseball. So the base itself, the ball beeps, the base buzzes. So as the batter makes contact and the ball is in fair play, the batter has to wait a split second to know which base turns on. And so that will determine which way he goes. He'll either run to first or third. And so the way it works is that if the fielder fields the ball before the runner gets to the base, it's an out. If the runner gets to the base before the fielder makes the put out, it's a run. So there's no having runners on base or in scoring position or any of that. It's a one and done play. As a batter, you're either safe or you're out.
So let's talk about like kind of how you got started. Like, how'd you find out this even existed? Because this was way back in the day, right?
Man, Jennifer, I have a lot of stories to say.
I know.
But what was cool is that I had an awesome transition counselor.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome transition counselor. Mm-hmm. She was amazing. Yeah. And with the work that I do now, I never fully understood how much support I had from her.
Yeah.
And so she introduced me to beat baseball through Michael Garrett. Michael Garrett, she knew Michael, and she was a part of the team at the time. And she brought out myself and another friend of mine. His name is Daryl.
Yes.
And so we were both 15 at the time. And I'll never forget that practice the first day because we're 15-year-olds and we're on the field with grown men that have been playing this game for however many years. And we're talking in their 30s.
Yeah.
So we get out there and first time going under blindfold, it was a trip.
It's a trip, yes.
Yeah,
I played a little bit too, and I was like, "Whoa, dude, this is insane."
So we'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a trip because you go under blindfold first time and you're asked to move, you're asked to run, you're asked to walk,
you're asked to dive on the field,
on the ground, use your hearing.
Yes.
And that was such a totally different experience because I have sight. So my version of sport, like I was used to playing softball or baseball,
right,
or things of that nature, to where I was seeing what was coming, and here couldn't see anything. Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, so it's like you have to figure out a different way. It's a whole nother set of skills.
Yes,
but once you get it, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, so that's started at 15.
Yep.
First national tournament was in Topeka, Kansas.
Yes. Back in the 90s, right?
Late 80s, 88.
Late 80s, okay. Yeah. And then you took a hiatus for a while and then came back in 2002, right?
I did. I quit for 10 years.
Yeah.
I came back in 2002.
Can't quit.
Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop.
No, exactly. Well, I haven't stopped ever since 2002, that's for sure.
That's for sure, yes.
Taken on a lot of different roles. And hey, 2002 was a big year.
Yes, it was.
I came back at the right time.
Yes, you did, because I was on that team that year, and we won the national championship.
We won the national championship that year.
In Chicago, yes, we did. And that was some long fighting days, boy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was such an interesting story too, because we had to beat the championship team
Yes.
2 times in order to win that championship.
Yep, because it was double elimination.
Yep. And so the first game we got them pretty good. I think we beat them by 7 runs.
Yeah.
Then the second game was a nail biter.
Yeah.
We scored on the last play of the game. We won on the last play of the game.
Yeah. Yes. I remember that tournament, man, because like I wasn't that good, but I got one game winning put out during like the last part of it, and I was so proud of myself. Like, I was like, okay, I have arrived.
Yeah, I mean that tournament's always going to be special for me because I was able to play ball with some longtime friends, and then I got to meet you, and I got to meet John, and and got to play ball again with Daryl, and got to meet a bunch of new people that are still in my life today.
Exactly.
So that tournament is super special for establishing relationships and support systems, and just being physically active, and hey, we won. We won a national.
So awesome.
We won the World Series.
Yes, we did. I'll never forget that. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I've been wanting to kind of put beatball onto the podcast and kind of make people aware of it. Just because. And now, are correct me if I'm wrong, but they're trying to make it a Paralympic sport. Is that correct?
So I don't know all the specifics regarding that.
Okay,
but,
sure.
So what I've understood, and it could be different now, but what I've understood is the reason why there's a holdup in making it a Paralympic sport is that there was too much involvement from sighted volunteers in order to make the players be successful.
I see. Okay.
That's why goalball is a Paralympic sport and blind soccer is a Paralympic sport, because they shout instruction from the sideline, but the players are on the field doing the work.
Right.
So that's the big difference. Whereas in beatball, in order to hit the ball, you have a sighted pitcher and catcher, and then in order to field, you use your hearing to field, but it helps to have a sighted spotter on the field in order to give you a direction.
Let's just maybe talk about some kind of maybe ongoing resources, support systems provided by the Lighthouse that you are familiar with, that you'd recommend, anything that's kind of pertinent in your life now.
Okay, well, through my job,
Yes.
It's my job to link families with community resources and outlets. And so what's been great about the Lighthouse, especially over the past 3 years, is that they have brought back a lot of the events that they had many years ago.
Yes.
And so, and that's one of the things that my families tell me a lot is that, hey, we want to meet other people with disabilities, or meet new families, or make new friends, and just get out and do stuff. Yeah. So, I know that, a big event every year is the Beep and Easter egg hunt.
Yes.
And so I've had many families come out to that event, and they always walk away with positive things to say. So, whether they've had a great time, or how it felt great to be around other families that are going through similar situations. And so, what I've also found is that a lot of the families attend a lot of the events, so they get to see each other on a fairly regular basis. Outside of that, when it comes to adult programs, they recently, earlier in the year, they put on the wine tasting event.
Yes.
And I know that there are other things that, happen. I may not get to make everything. We got a lot going on. So
yeah, absolutely.
But, I do like to get out there. I mean, I've heard there's a bingo night, right?
Yeah, there's a bingo night, and there's talk of them doing something over the holidays. Stay tuned for that. I don't know if I'm supposed to divulge that information yet. But
breaking news.
Breaking news. You got it right here, folks. But anyway, so no, but there's so much in the works. There's so much on the horizon. We're doing so many things, and like you said, the wine tasting and just events that kind of re-invoke that sort of community and things, and kind of how it was back in the day, for you, and just everything's kind of starting to come full circle again. And it's so cool to watch it happen. And it's so, cool that, you're a part of it. And a lot of these, us old timey people are a part of it. He's like, speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, look, the Lighthouse has been a big part of my life.
Yep.
Whether that's through, my first job was through the Lighthouse. I was a summer camp counselor here back in the 80s.
That's right.
So I did that. I worked at contract jobs with the Lighthouse at the IRS buildings in Houston, both of them. And, I've met a lot of great people that are in my life today that through the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
That if it wasn't for the Lighthouse, I wouldn't have met some of these people.
Exactly.
So I can't speak highly enough of the impact the Lighthouse has had on me.
All right. So, as y'all know, I'm, the manager of business services here at the Lighthouse of Houston, and I'm responsible for some contracts, couple of them, 7. And Lee has, happened to, in prior years, work on one of these contracts for the IRS. So, Lee, let's talk a little bit about just, kind of how important it is for people to, kind of seek employment, seek it out.
Being independent is at the forefront, right? Like for me, I've always wanted to be independent. I wanted to be on my own. And in order to be able to do that, you have to have a job. You have to be able to develop new skills in order to either obtain personal growth or professional growth. And ultimately what you always want to do is try to build on that as much as possible. Again, with trying to be as successful as possible. So, back in 2006, I was getting back into the workforce because I took a little bit of time off to take care of my son. So reached out, a friend of mine told me about an opening at the mailroom at the Iris building off of South Gessner. And so I reached out to Sheila at the time, her name, Sheila Moran at the time. Mm-hmm. And so Sheila and I had a conversation, and she hired me. Yeah. So, it was initially to work with someone that was already established there, and it was to just go in and help out. So I started, and back in January 2006, and I'll never forget it. It was like the second day on the job, and we had an inspection, and I had no idea what to do. But, I rolled with it. Yeah. I looked for all the documentation that they needed, pulled up all the records that they needed, and, just tried to work through it as much as possible. Back then, unfortunately, I cannot remember her name, but she worked for the Lighthouse, and she was able to come out and help me look for the things that we needed and to just get through the inspection that day. Right. But that in itself was a learning experience. So, I had plenty of skills when it came to employment. I'd already worked about 4 years previously, and then I took some time off, but then this was my job back into the work, my startup back into the workforce. Right. So at that time, it's important to develop, job ready skills or job skills. And then, like I said, to grow on them. So like in the mailroom itself, I learned a lot of new things that I'll never forget to this day. Learned how to work a meter machine. Yep. Learned, I got to use adaptive software for the first time, like Zoom Text.
Exactly.
And so I'm always looking for ways to expand my skill set, and so that was new to me. And then it was just learning the processes in the mailroom, and once you get them down, they were pretty easy. So once we got everything rolling, it was smooth sailing after that. It was good, and then and then about 2013, some things happened personally, and I had to try to branch out and seek out another career. So at that time, I went and was able to get a job working for DARS.
Exactly.
And then that job transitioned into working into the Blind Children's Program around 2014. And so I worked with them for almost 2 years, and then I had to take a break again for personal reasons. And then I was able to go back to the IRS mailroom. So they were there again for me, to establishing connections and being able to seek those out, again, through whether it's personal or professional relationships. It was a random call one day. Wow. And I answered it. And the initial purpose of that call was to see if anybody else was looking for a job that I knew. And I said, funny enough, hey, I'm looking for a job. So from 2016 to 2020, I worked in the IRS mailroom again, but I always knew that I wanted more. Yeah. I wanted to do more, and I knew I was capable of more. Right. So that's, again, going back to contacts. Yep. At that time, someone from the Blind Children's Program reached out to me again and said, hey, we have a position open. You should, consider it. Come back to the program. And I looked into it, and I did. And I've been working with them ever since. Right.
And that's the beauty of what we do here at the Lighthouse of Houston. It's like if you're looking for if you want to stay with us, if you want to work with us and keep on, remain with us and continue your career for as long as you can continue it here, wonderful. If you're looking for competitive employment out in the if you're looking for competitive employment out in the community, we're here for that too. And, we would like to foster that growth and help make it happen. So thank you for that, Lee. All right. Well, Lee, I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Thank y'all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is an awesome conversation. I've known, Lee for 20 years, and I've learned some stuff today that I didn't know. So that this was informative, and I feel like you have an awesome story. So thank you for putting it out there for us. We appreciate it. All right. So for those of you at home, we have so many more amazing and inspiring stories to come. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, guys, and listen to Sightless Voices, Unleashing Potential, anywhere you get your podcasts. We urge you to stay safe, stay strong, and keep unleashing potential, and we'll see you next time.